I miss action platformers. Games like classic God of War and Maximo were a fun mix of combat and jumping challenges. Pumpkin Jack released during the middle of October, and I picked it up during Steam's Halloween sale because it looked like it could scratch that action platformer itch. Pumpkin Jack is a 2020 action platformer by Nicolas Messonnier. It's definitely inspired by games like Medievil and Maximo, but the twist in this game is that you're not here to save the world, but to bring it further into chaos. The humans have gotten too uppity, and the devil wants to take them down a notch by unleashing monsters on Earth. In response, the humans turn to their champion, the Wizard, to fight off the devil's forces. Not content with being put out by the humans, the devil sends the only man who ever outsmarted him, not once, not twice, but 3 times, Stingy Jack, to take out the Wizard. If Jack can defeat the Wizard, the devil will forgive him of his crimes, and he'll be free to wander about the earth after the demons take over. But there's a catch. Because Jack is merely a soul, he was placed into a pumpkin that controls a scarecrow's body. Jack has to settle with his new form while taking on the humans as well as the demons that run rampant because they're dumb as animals and don't care that Jack is working for the devil. And that's the premise. The game sums up the events of the story at the end of every chapter, but Jack's motivation is pretty clear-cut. Take out the Wizard and take over the world. To fight the humans and Hell's minions, Jack acquires new weapons in every level. He starts out with a basic shovel, but almost every boss fight at the end of each level grants him a new weapon. Jack's controls are pretty decent. He's got a double jump and his attack varies, but I can't figure out how. Sometimes he does a basic combo and sometimes he does weird special moves. The one thing I can guarantee is that the attack following the double jump always has an area of effect. Jack has to heed the advice of a demonic owl that serves as his guide for the game. They get along well enough. At certain points in the level, Jack will find cauldrons that have the owl hanging over them. These serve as checkpoints and healing stations, but Jack can also replenish health by destroying objects in the level. Along with the owl, Jack takes under his wing a crow that serves as Jack's range attack. It only works on enemies and obstacles that have the attack prompt hovering over them, and recharges on cooldown. There are 2 collectibles in the game. Crow Skulls, which can be traded with the local skin merchant, who provides Jack alternate skins. And I mean skins. He even admits to going around and stripping the skins off of corpses to find new material. There are 20 Crow Skulls in every level, and the game does a great job keeping track of which skulls you've already collected. And gramophones, which cause Jack to Fortnite dance. For some reason, the game doesn't have the option of listening to these tracks in the main menu. It's not too hard to find either collectible because the level design is pretty straightforward. It's hard to describe, but just because a level design is more or less linear, that doesn't mean it's boring. The collectibles can be in some sneaky places, and each area has a lot of unique art assets that keep the game fresh by changing up the colors and mood based on a level's theme. The graveyard looks rightfully gloomy, but the war zone is full of bright oranges cast from the various fires. Actually, that's the real enemy in this game. Some of the destructible objects in the levels have candles that will ignite when destroyed, and cause some serious damage if you're not careful. The thing is, that fire spreads and even goes up to adjacent platforms that are above the area where the fire started. This can be annoying when you've unwittingly destroyed a candle and it ignites the lone platform above it that you need to reach to progress. The enemies aren't too hard, but their attacks seem to have weird timing. Jack has a dodge that he can spam indefinitely, and it's really good at avoiding damage, but you can get easily overwhelmed if you're not paying attention to Jack's health. The standard enemies have a range attack that barely has a tell, and they'll do it at point blank range, so I just take the hits and try to rush down the mobs. This game is definitely more of a platformer than an action title. Some areas require Jack to take his head and dump it into a pumpkin statue to complete puzzles. This is where the Medievil inspiration is in full force. The game turns into a puzzle platformer that requires Jack to guide bombs, knock differently shaped blocks into their appropriate slots, match names on tombstones, and a bunch of other distractions. This game does a great job of breaking up the platforming and combat with minigame set pieces. I think the game overdoes it sometimes, but I won't say that the game never feels like it's lacking content. My favorite area is the graveyard, with this rundown cathedral at the center. Jack has to destroy 7 statues representing the 7 deadly sins, and some of the challenges actually make use of the gameplay to represent the sin. The Wrath statue requires Jack to fight off a bunch of enemies. Pretty simple. The Pride statue is located at the highest point of the map. Here's an Assassin's Creed reference that doesn't reveal a bug in the game. The Envy statue is probably the best challenge because the surrounding area is full of decoy crow skulls that deal damage on pickup. At some point, you just have to accept that you can't touch all of these skulls because you don't have the health for it, and give up on that approach. It's a cool way to use gameplay in tandem with the story. The Greed statue requires Jack to pay 3 crow skulls to open the gate barring the statue. This is also cool, but not by much because there isn't any other use for skulls other than to buy skins. The other cool thing I like about this game is that one of the weapons that Jack can acquire is a talking sword that judges your performance in combat based on how much damage you took and how many enemies you defeated. But the cool thing is that wielding it causes Jack to hover in the air instead of running and... Wait, do I have summoned swords? What's the double jump attack do? Oh, it does that. The bosses are pretty simple. If you've played Maximo or other platformer games, then you know what to expect. Big guys with area of effect attacks and rule of 3 attack cycles. I only ever died to one boss, and that was the wizard, but I did die several times during that fight. He destroys parts of the arena with each phase, and I was constantly falling into the pit. The game keeps track of how many times you've died overall in the game. It's a hit to the ego, but that's the price you pay for decent checkpoints. My only real gripes with the game are that the jumping can be a little too floaty for my liking, and it's caused some pitfalls that I didn't think I deserved. That and some of the button mashing set pieces were giving me Banjo-Tooie War flashbacks, but sending out the crow to slow down enemies helps with those challenges. Also, some on-rail segments had some bad angles that caused failsafes that I also didn't think I deserved, and I had a hard time avoiding damage with these tunneling set pieces. And these balance beam segments change up Jack's movement so that he has to tiptoe across them, but it's really easy to fall off these spots. This is where the game reminds me of God of War after the first Hydra fight. Overall, Pumpkin Jack is a pretty fun game. It's short, sweet, and has a lot of personality. Also, I'm not sure if it's the art style, but the music definitely reminds me of A Hat in Time for some reason. I think it's the theremin that plays in the background. It's about $30 on Steam, but it'll probably go on sale for a lot cheaper, and I think that's a good price for the game. If you're looking to try out an action platformer for an afternoon, please play Pumpkin Jack.